Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So in this episode, let's build together a weather application which will look like this. So we will make use of the API which is provided by weatherapi.com. I will give you the link in the description so you can just go up there and then sign up using your email and then password. And then once you have signed up, they will send you a verification email. So after that, you will get access to this particular dashboard in which you will have the API key. So they will give you a free trial in the beginning, and then if you want to extend the trial, I don't think you need extension. Most of the time the free version itself is fine. So now once you have the API key, you can just copy it. So in my case, I'm going to copy it, and then in our application folder we will create a file called prod.env.js, and then we will assign it to a variable called API key, the value. All right, and then once you save it, you have your API key inside our production environment variable, right? And if you go to the application, how it will look in the end, as you can see, we have a card which shows the current place, time, and then the date, which is not correct. So, and this is just boilerplate. So if you want to get a particular location's time or time and then the temperature, what you do is you just basically type in the place name. Or let's type in Trivandrum, and then it will update you with the actual weather over there. Let's type in Adelaide. Yeah, you can see the temperature is saying over there, and then the date, current date, everything is being updated. So this is what we're going to build in the end, so which is pretty basic. So let's get to it. We will create index.html as always, and then we will create it with a boilerplate. I will have the index.html and then the style.css files linked in the description, so you don't have to build it out from scratch. You can just copy paste and be done with it. Okay, and then I will also create a script.js file before I close it out. Also the style.css. Then I'm going to quickly copy the index.html file and then the style.css file and update it with it. All right, so I have copied the index.html. I will also copy style.css. Okay, that should be it. Let's check if this is working by using our live server extension. So once that's done, yeah, as you can see, this is our boilerplate. So if you look at the HTML code itself, it's just basically purely simple. You are just having a div with a date container, and then inside that you are hard coding the data, and so on and so forth, right? And then you have your icon, and then the temperature I have done, and then the sunny part. And then on the right hand side we have info side, and then in the info side we are giving precipitation, humidity, wind, and then we have week forecast for the next coming days, right? So that also being added as a boilerplate as of now. We will update it manually when the time comes. And then I have also included our prod.env.js, which we have created for our API key, right? So this should also be there. Make sure that it's done. And then script.js, which will have our script. Okay, so now let's get into the scripting part. So first of all, we will access that particular variable from our imported file. So I'm gonna just check if this has been correctly imported, right? So console.log API key, and then let me open up my console. Yeah, so it's being done. All right, so we have our API key at hand. Then what we'll do is, for all these things like date objects and everything, we have to get the date object. So I will create a current date object using JavaScript default class new date. And then if you look at the date object, you will see that date object is currently Thursday 29/23. All right, so the time is actually correct. And then once you have that, we have to also get the day name so that we can access and change the day name and then the date, actual date itself. So for getting the day name, can use normal function definition, and then date type and date wall. We'll take two inputs. So by default, if the date val is not there, then we can access the date object over here. So this is basically a default parameter if the value is not there. And then what we'll do is we will access that particular date object, and then we will convert it using to locale date string, and then we will use which locale we want to change it to. So I'm gonna go with US, and then I will also give another parameter as option. So as you can see, we have weekday option over here, and then we will say day type. Okay. All right. And then the next step would be actually listening on the page load itself. So when the page loads for the first time, we have to get the location from the browser if the user allows it. For that, we can make use of the navigator function within the JavaScript itself. So inside navigator, we will get geolocation, and with the geolocation, we can get the get current position. So inside that position, it will have its latitude and longitude. So from that particular position object, we can see which location is the user is currently accessing the data from. So for that, we will use const latitude equal to position dot codes dot latitude, and then the same thing for longitude, const longitude equal to position dot codes dot longitude. All right, so now we have both of them, and then we will also get the location, and then we will update the location as latitude, then comma longitude. Okay, so now we have the location object as latitude and longitude object. And then once you have that, we can call a function which will actually fetch the location data, right? So we can use fetch weather data, and then we will pass it. We will pass the location as the input. All right. So if this returns an error, we will also have to access that particular error. So in the geolocation get current position, if that actually returns error, we will say console.log error getting the actual location. And we will print it out. All right. So as you can see, once you save it, it's already immediately giving you error saying that fetch weather data is not defined. So we will create a function for fetch weather data, which will take a location as the input. And inside that function, what we'll do is we will define the API URL. So that API URL I will quickly copy. You can just use that from the API documentation. So I'm just going to copy this particular URL. And inside the URL, if you notice, it's actually getting the data. It's accessing the API weather API.com, and then it's version 1. And then we are actually getting the current weather plus the forecast weather, so that we can show like the next 4 coming days, right? So for that, we will use forecast.json, and then we will pass key as the parameter which we have access from API key, and then the query. If you have any actual location in your hand, then we will say, okay, I'm going to encode the component with either latitude, longitude, or the actual text name of that particular location itself. It doesn't matter. So weather API.com is actually handling, if you send latitude and longitude, it will get the data from latitude and longitude. If you are sending the location name as a string, it will get the location from the string itself. So it's being handled over here itself. And then I will get like 5 days, basically current day, including current day. I need next 4 days forecast. So I'm getting 5 days of data. So this is our API URL. Now we just have to call this particular URL. So for that, we can use fetch API URL. So inside the API URL, after that, it will return a response, right? Then response. So that response, we will access response.json. And then after that, we can access that particular data, and then we will see what is the data we are getting inside. So console log data. So I'm going to just quickly format this so it's actually easily readable. All right, so let's check. As you can see, we are getting the location, the current value for it. Inside the current value, you can see the condition is clear, and then they are actually providing you with a certain image for this particular condition, right? And then you have the current temperature in degrees Celsius and current temperature in Fahrenheit. So the current temperature 35, and then based on that you can actually update it, right? So that's about it. And then you also have the current location, which it is identified from the browser. So from time to time, like your browser might ask you for allowing the location over here. See, the location is actually allowed in my case, but in your case it may be not allowed. So make sure that if this is not working, make sure that this location is actually enabled over here. All right, so if that's done, you will get the current location and everything. So based on this particular location, we can update these values: the current day, and then the current date, and then the location, which is like country, and then the name. So that part we can update it from the received data. So first thing we can access is document.query selector, and then the location. We will update the location using, I think we have the location over here. If you go on this side, so location is actually saying that Paris and comma France, right? So which is basically city and then the country. So in the same case, what we'll do is we will access that particular location using the location class, and then we will change the text content into the country name, which is basically you have data.location, right? So you will get the data.location object, data.location dot, and then the name, comma, then data.location dot country. All right, so yeah, it's actually being updated over here. It's getting Dubai United Arab Emirates. So that's actually being updated over there, which means the city is done. Then we just need to access this element and then update it as wise. All right, so here it is actually weather temp class. So I'm just gonna copy it, and then document.query selector, and then the class. Then I will update the text content equal to, in our case, the API we are not printing anymore. So I'm just gonna quickly print it out. Console log API URL, no, the data. All right, so the data has been printed, and then inside that we have the current condition. So inside current we have temp C, so we are looking for that particular value. So what I can do is I will go to data.current.temp underscore C. You have the temperature, right? So inside the temperature, as you can see, I'm gonna just copy the degree Celsius value from it, and then just gonna paste it over here. So the temperature is actually updated. All right, that makes sense. And then if you look at the location object, you will also can see that inside the condition it's saying just clear. It's not sunny, it's just saying it's clear. So we have to update that value as well. For that, we will get weather description from here, which will also follow the same thing: document dot query selector, weather description dot text content equal to. So we are basically getting the data from data.current.condition.text. Okay, so as you can see, it's also getting updated. And then now we have to update this particular icon itself. So that icon is being provided over here in this icon URL. So if you notice, we have an icon URL in here, which is accessed by using a weather icon class. So I'm going to update that particular element as well. So query selector, and then the weather icon, dot src, which will access the image source element, and inside the image source element I will access data dot current dot condition, and then we have icon. Okay, so it's updated to a night symbol, which means there is nothing actually going on, it's just nighttime, that's it. So in our particular case, we are not updating the date over the day, right? So that also needs to be updated over here. So we already have the date object at our hand, so we can make use of it, right? So when you get the, let's just print out what is the output of get day name over here, and then yeah, we have to pass in the day name value. All right, so for now we will just send in get day name, and then we are going to say long and nothing. All right, so as you can see, we are getting Thursday over here. In this particular function, what we are passing is we can have the option as date type can be short or long. So if you give in short, what will happen is it will only give you 3 value variable, and then if you give in long, it will give you the full day like length itself. All right, so we are going to make use of this, and then we are going to just put it over here, replace the Thursday with it. So that Thursday is actually over here under the class name date dash day name. So I'm going to update that document dot query selector, and then the class name, then dot text content equal to get day name and then long. Okay, so that day name is actually updated. So since it's now Thursday, both of them are correct. So let's just take a look if it's actually being updated. So as you can see, it was Friday for a moment, and then it went back to Thursday, right? Okay, so now that's correct, and then we have to update the date as well. So we will get to the date part in a second, but before that, let's complete the forecast value and then the precipitation value. So if we take a notice at this, the current will also have precipitation in inches and then precipitation in millimeter, and then you have also humidity and then the wind kilometer per hour. So humidity is over here, and then wind kilometer per hour is also here. So we can access all those elements and then update it as well. So on the info side, we have value precipitation inside a div precipitation. We have value class. So we will get document dot query selector. Forgot the class name. Okay, precipitation. I'm just gonna copy it, and then inside that you have a value class, and then I'm gonna update the text content of that particular value into our value from the current data dot current dot, and then precipitation inch. I'll get that and then paste it. Just gonna quickly get rid of the percentage in the beginning itself, because we are actually showing the precipitation in inches, so we don't need the percentage value over there. And then we will also get the humidity, which have a class of humidity and then the value. Okay, so I'm just going to copy humidity and then copy this particular element and then humidity value, and then update the humidity value from here, which is humidity. All right, I'm just going to copy that, and then the next one would be wind. So wind also has same class, so I have already copied of humidity. You just update wind, and then inside the wind kilometer per hour we have it over here. So wind kilometer per hour, so 67% is gone. I can add percentage over here followed by a space or without a space. Yeah, without a space looks fine. And then for the kilometer per hour part, I'm gonna just do kilometer per hour. I think I'll go with with space. Okay, so that part is done, and then we have to get get into the forecast part. So we have a total of 5 array objects with the next day and so on and so forth, right? So what we will do is we will update, create a function for forecast data update. So forecast data, and then we will pass in the data dot forecast object, right? So I'm gonna create a function for it. Function update forecast data, then the forecast val, right? So in this, what we'll do is we will get the container, which have all these elements, right? So I'm gonna get that particular element into a variable so that we can reuse it later on. So I'm gonna query selector, and then the class is week container itself. Okay, so now we have the week container. Actually, we need the week list because week list has the li elements in it. So I'm gonna get the week list over here instead of week container, and then we will make sure that this week container is actually empty in the beginning. So we will set the inner HTML of week container as empty. Okay, and then we will loop through the forecast data we got, and then inside that we have, let's take a look at the forecast data object. So inside that we have another object called forecast day. So I'm gonna access that, and then if we look at forecast day, it's actually of type array, so we can do a for each on it. So for each, and then each forecast, we are getting the each forecast value, and so inside the each forecast value we have the day object, and inside the day object we have the forecast for that particular day, right? So forecast day, and then inside each object each forecast, let's just console the log if we have everything correct, right? Each forecast dot day. So yeah, it's printing everything, and inside the day we have all the values. So I'm just gonna get this value into a variable, say day val, and then each forecast dot day. So inside that you have access to max temp in degrees Celsius, and then you also have, other than that, what we need, just the day and then the icon. So I think we will only look into the condition, and we will get the icon, and then the max temperature in degrees Celsius. All right. So for that, we can, like, we need to also parse the date value so that we will have access to the date, day, and then update it over here. So I will do that first, and then we will say current date equal to new date, and then you basically pass in the day data you have inside over here. Wait, forecast day 0. Oh, sorry, it should be inside each forecast dot date. So let's check if we have the current date on each of the loop. So yeah, we have each of the loop 29, 30, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so now we have access to the current date, and then what we'll do is we have that, since we have that particular object, we will check if current date dot to date string is not equal to our actual date object, right? So we can do that by just using date object dot to date string. So we are doing this check because like we don't want to actually show the current date value over here, right? So we will start from Thursday, we will and continue on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, right? So we don't, if you notice the focus data, inside the focus data you have these datas which actually have from the beginning itself, the first day, second day, and so on. So it also includes the current day. So we want to exclude that. That's why I'm looking at the current date to string is not equal to the our current object. Okay, so if that's the case, then we will create an li element, const lil equal to document dot create element, and then we will create a li element. So inside the li element we will set the inner html to certain value which will have an image class with source value. So inside the source value you have the icon. If you notice, so you can see you have an icon over here. So that icon is being in the day object, and inside the day object you have condition. Inside the condition you have icon. So you have the day val object. So I'm going to just copy day val dot condition dot icon, and then once we have it, I'm just gonna close it, and I will also give an alternate tag just to like be sure if it will like help the other guys, right? So I'm gonna say table, let's just go with each forecast and then the date, and then we'll say temperature. Okay, so now we have the image element, and then we will have another span element inside that which will have a day name which we have already defined in the CSS styling, and we will call the get day name class. So that will take two parameters in here. You notice we are only getting the short string value of the date, I mean day. So I'm gonna just give short, and then you have the current date object. So I'm just gonna pass it over there, and then I will close the span element, and then we will also have another span element for the temperature below, right? So for that temperature I will have a class called date temp. So inside the date temp we can access the date temp value using day val dot, I think it was max temperature degree Celsius. Okay, so we'll just copy that and then follow it by the degree Celsius over here. Just gonna copy this and then place it over here, and then we'll end it with the span. Okay, so I think that should be it, and then now we need to append it to the week container we have already defined over here. So I will say week container dot append child, and then the li element. So it's kind of going out. I think I have missed one of the style. Let me just quickly check what style I have missed. Yeah, for the image element I have missed the day dash icon element. So if you put that, yeah, that's fine. So if you look at UAE Umusukim, then all the times it's actually sunny. So it's very sunny over here, That's where you can see it, like, which is correct, right? And then if you notice, you have a search bar over here. Inside the search bar, there is no actual padding in between. So once this loop is done, I will do a clear div which has a styling to update the space between them. So I'm going to do insert adjacent HTML, and then I'll say before end, I just want to add a div with class equal to clear, right? So this will have a clear in between them. So you can see, yeah, now it's perfectly padded. It has a padding on top of it. All right. So our data for the whole thing is done as of now. Now what we have to see is like, if you notice, if the location is actually night, it changes the background. So in our case, even if this is night, we are not changing the background. So the background has a class of night, and then if it's not night, then it will have a class of day. So if you look over here, weather side has a class of day assigned to it. So if you change it to night, we'll change it to night, right? So we can update this based on the condition we are getting over here. So what we will do is, the data has actually a class in the current which is checking for each day, right? So if each day is false, which means it's not day, it's actually night. So I'm going to just check the condition and then update the class as well. So if data route current and then dot each day, if it's true, then what we have to do is we have to get that particular element and then add day class to it. So I think it was weather select. We'll just confirm in a sec. And then class list dot replace night with day. And if it's not, same thing, but the other way, day with night. Okay, so let's check if weather select. Yeah, I think we messed up the class. It's actually weather side. Okay, so I'm just gonna update that. All right, so that's done. And then now we have to make work of the form submit. Right. If you notice, we also have a form element over here inside which, when the submit happens, we have to take the location and then update the weather based on the location the user have typed in. So we will listen for the form submit event outside here using document dot query selector and then dot location form. I think it is location form. Yeah, it's location form. And then we will add an event listener on top of it. Add event listener. We will listen for the submit event, and then we will get the event of that particular submit. And by default, we have to prevent the default for that particular form. So we will do event prevent default. And once you have it, we will get the value for that particular location, right? So the user has typed in some value. So we'll get the location from the input bar, which has an ID of search input. I'm just going to get that using document dot get element by ID and then the value over here. So dot value. Now you have the value at hand. Let's just print it out and see if it's actually triggering. Search location. Yeah, it's coming up. Okay. And then what we'll do is, if you have an actual search location, if it's not empty or something, then you can proceed with it. So I'm just going to trim it just to be safe. I always do this. So if search location is there, then what you can do is you can call the API and then send the data, right? So we have already created this particular function for fetch weather data, which takes an input as location. So I'm just gonna call that particular function using search location, right? So this should this should update us everything. So let's try with run. Yeah, it's updated everything, right? And then I delete. Yeah, all right. Thing only one thing is missing because the date is not updated yet over here. So the date updation part, I think we can do it over here in the beginning where we update the day name over here. So we will take this out of the fetch URL and then place it outside, and then we will also update the date as well. So I can do const full date string equal to date object dot to locale date string, and then I will access the US format, and then inside that I will pass on some options saying day equal to numeric, and then month equal to short, and then year equal to again numeric, right? So this should give us a full date string. Let's just double check if that's what we are getting in our desired format. So yeah, we are getting it in our desired format, and then now we can just put it over there. So if you look at it, it's actually we are putting the day first and then the month second, right? So in US standards, they always put the month first and then the day second. So if you go for GB, which is Great Britain, you get it in our desired format. So I'm going to go with the Britain standard over here just for this particular template to be matched with our data. And now we can get this element and then update over here. So date day and then update, right? So document dot query selector date day dot text content equal to full date string. Yeah, so that's updated, and then let's make sure that everything else is working. That's working. Let's check one more place, Toronto. Yeah, that's also working. So that's it, guys. I hope you understood the whole project. And then if you guys have any doubt about like whatever I have done in this particular section, just let me know. And then in the comments, and I will update you as soon as possible. Also about like if you have any suggestions to make another video, then please do let me know. Then I will update you on the same. So until then, keep coding. I will see you guys in another one.